Welcome to the Self-Care for the Creative podcast, where we talk self-care strategies for creatives. We also talk mindset, wellness, personal growth, and artist development within the music industry. I'm your host, StefaniFryzel. I'm an artist, author, and creative coach, and the founder of StefaniFryzel Coaching, where we help artists, songwriters, and producers increase their impact, income, and visibility within a year with our artist development program. This season, we are diving deep into calling forth your next level. I'm so glad you're here. Christina Tripp is a Nashville native pop singer-songwriter who has collaborated with many local up-and-coming artists, including Alex Coles, Drew Now, Abigail Rose, and many more. From collaborating with Ty Herndon on his newest Grammy-considered album, Jacob, to her recent cuts, Love Bomb by Cinderstella and Issue by Jack the Underdog, she is no stranger to the Nashville music crowd. She often writes with artists from all genres in the area. In addition to releasing her own music, she has performed at popular venues in Nashville, such as the Basement, Tin Roof, Live Oak, and she's a prolific content creator dedicated to helping you write your best songs. Please welcome my next guest, Christina Tripp. Welcome to the Self-Care for the Creative podcast. I'm so excited to bring my next guest, who was also a mentor at the Songwriter Series last year. Please welcome Christina Tripp.
Hello, hello.
Yay. I'm so glad that you are on the podcast this season. I've been following you for a while now, and I just love all your content on social media. It's so helpful, so useful. And I know that songwriters far and wide probably get so much good inspiration and tips from the content that you create. So why don't we just introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, your little backstory, and where you're tuning in from, and about you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, born and raised. I've been here my whole life. And yeah, I started social media probably a year ago, I guess. I started in October, what is this year, 2025? So yeah, 2024 question mark? Or 2020?
Nice.
I think 2023. It doesn't matter. Anyways. Yeah, I've had a great time doing it. I never intended for it to like big as it has been and like spread so much joy and positivity to so many people. And I'm so happy to like receive all the, commentary I've gotten back from it and that it's like helped people. So
amazing. So how did you get into music? Like the brief sort of musical background story, if you care to share. I always like to know a little bit of the origin story of like how you came into this industry.
Yeah. So my mom and her whole side of the family is super into music. I grew up with everyone on her side of the family played an instrument. During family events, it was just like a big old band. My entire life growing up, I was in church, choirs all the time, whether it was school or church or whatever. So I always had music in my life, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with it. Like whenever I graduated high school, my dad was kind of like, hey, make sure you get a real job, like go to school, go to college, do something. So I was actually in nursing school for 3 years, which is kind of crazy. But I continued to write for some time during that time. And I always loved writing. Like that was always my favorite thing to do. Rather than performing, I always loved writing. But so yeah, then I stopped doing that after 3 years time. And I ended up going to MTSU to graduate with a major in music business and a minor in marketing. And from there, I just started getting into it. I started connecting in Nashville and meeting people. And it's just been great ever since. So
amazing. I always like to hear the backstory because like, we'll have people come on the show and it's like, yeah, no, my parents were not in music whatsoever. I'm the black sheep of the family or whatever. And then there's, people that grow up with music as part of their childhood, their upbringing, their parents are into it, or, so that's good to know, like just kind of what the environment is, because sometimes it's ingrained in us and other times it's like, oh, it becomes like the escape. Like it's like the thing where it's like, oh, well, my childhood wasn't so great. And I turned to music because I needed an outlet. I needed a space to express myself and, put my ideas or whatever it is, pen to page kind of thing. So thank you for giving us a little bit of your backstory. So I want to get into just like your expertise and just a few things, just because like I'm so entertained by all the content that you put out. And like, I would love to know a few, and I'm sure we could talk about this for an hour, but just like, what are some of your like top songwriting tips for people that are coming to your page? I know there's so many of really great gems on your page, but if you were to like drop like 3 songwriting tips that you found to be really helpful, what would be your 3 go-to songwriting tips?
Ooh, that's pressure. That's hard.
I know there's like Probably so many.
Okay, I would say just keep showing up on the days that you don't feel like it even. Sometimes good songs, like really great songs, can come out of like spots when you're like, I don't really feel like doing anything. And that just is a space where your imagination can start to run wild and like kind of come up with stuff that you might not have come up with before. I would say journaling is like a really great way to just get your thoughts from your head onto paper. And it's just a great visual for you to just be like, okay, here are words. What can I make of it? The third one, surround yourself with people who are better than you, who are better writers than you, who have different perspective, who have been doing it longer than you have, who inspire you, people who you want to be more like.
Amazing. It's such great advice because, I mean, that's part of the reason why I brought you into the Songwriter series as a mentor, because the space is designed to put people in the room with other hit songwriters who have done it, have had some success. They've been fine tuning their craft for years and years and years and years. And to have that ability to be in the room with those people and sort of mine all the knowledge and the tools and the tips and all of that. So this is really awesome advice. What would you say is, what would be something you would tell somebody who struggles with writer's block? Because I know that comes up a lot too. And that like, even myself, like I journal a lot. It's a daily practice of mine. It's always been sort of my form of self-care and, obviously plays into my job as a songwriter and an artist. But sometimes when you're putting things to page or you show up to the songwriting room and you're like, I got nothing. What do I do with this? Or it could just be a phase of your life where you're just feeling kind of dry and like uninspired. Like what kind of advice would you give someone dealing with writer's block?
Writer's block is something that everybody goes through in different seasons of life for different reasons, and I guess start doing things, like I would say for one, start doing things that you don't normally do. Try finding different avenues of writing that you haven't tried before. Also, maybe rest. Rest is also like a really important part of being able to write well and have a clear, level head. Sometimes writer's block can come from us not physically moving as well, I think. And so making sure you're exercising, go for a walk, just do different things that are out of the norm for you, or maybe just like notice patterns that you've had that have gotten you physically, mentally, or spiritually stuck and try to find ways to navigate that. That would be my biggest advice to anybody who's going through writer's block. And I try to give that same advice to myself as well. I ended up creating a product called the Writer's Block Bulldozer, and it's just a bunch of different ways on how to get through writer's block. And it's got a lot of different, like, not normal, I guess, ways of writing, like games and things like that. So I've used that before whenever I've had writer's block too, and it's been super helpful.
I love that. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I was like, sometimes we just need a little bit of a push to get out of our head. And it's like, okay, sometimes all it takes is just one little prompt. And then you're like, okay, I don't have, the page is not empty anymore. So it's good that you brought that up, because all kinds of tools can help us sort of jumpstart the idea. But I'm so glad that you also pointed out that like sometimes you just need to rest, and like I remember this saying that somebody told me once, that like it was kind of a comparative, creativity can be like farms, like every season, one season, sometimes the farm is not growing anything. It's literally just laying fallow and it's getting the soils nice and rich and ready to grow crops. But for one season, it's like, it's just laying there. So knowing that and treating ourselves the same way, that like just because it's laying fallow doesn't mean it's not ever going to produce fruit ever again. Like it's just like part of the season. So allowing yourself that time and space for that rest is so, so important. So what are some ways that you recharge and restore and just refill your creative well?
I definitely like to go to the gym. So I try to do that as much as I can throughout the week. Like I said, I think physically moving does so much for us in all aspects. Everything is connected. So going to the gym for sure. I like to do yoga. I think yoga is really great for my anxiety sometimes.
Sounds like movement is like a really big one for you. That's the way to restore yourself. And you mentioned like using yoga as a way to calm sort of anxieties and things like that. So I'm curious, like, is anxiety something that's been prominent in your life, something that you've had to deal with a lot? Like, if you care to share like your personal experience with that. All right, we are taking a quick commercial break to tell you about my book, Self-Care for the Creative. If you are an artist, songwriter, creative entrepreneur, whatever it is you do, and you're feeling like you're running on empty or suffering from burnout, then Self-Care for the Creative is the survival guide you did not know that you needed. Inside, you're going to discover ways to nail the basics of self-care, how to thrive as an empowered empath, how to maximize
maximize your creativity and manage your career and build a self-care toolkit that supports you. Self-Care for the Creative is more than just a book. It is a roadmap to staying sane, successful, and soulful in your creative career. All right, let's get back to the podcast episode.
Sometimes the lifestyle of a musician and an artist and a creative, and especially now, like the sort of hustle culture, like it's easy to kind of forget to be like, oh, I really need this yoga practice and it has to go on my calendar. And if it doesn't go on my calendar, then I become a mental mess. And not to mention, we're the ones creating our lifestyle. We're the ones booking our calendars. So like we're the CEOs of what we're scheduling and what we are carving time out for. So do you ever find sometimes it's hard to like make sure that that's a boundary? Like for sure, this goes on my calendar. It is immovable. Do you ever struggle with maintaining that practice?
Yeah, absolutely. But I really don't think I would be anywhere without a calendar. A calendar and literally blocking out time, like you said, is so important for me because I will go boo, 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 every which way because I just want to do a bunch of things all the time. And if I don't sit down and be like, okay, these are the priorities this week, and above all else, I need to prioritize myself. That's a habit in itself that I've had to cultivate, and that like you said, you go through spells and bounds wherever you don't do that so much or you do it more than often. But it's definitely something that I'm glad that I've been accustomed to in some capacity.
Yeah, I'm with you on the calendar thing. Like I cannot function without the calendar. I'm like, what am I doing today? And like, I will sit down like every Sunday pretty much and just be like, all right, what's the week ahead? And, here's the list of things and here's how long roughly it'll take me. And then just time blocking out those pieces ahead of time. And, sometimes I'm kind of like, wait, whoa, this week is crazy. Why did I do this to myself? And I'm like, okay, I got to create some space here. I don't like how heavy this feels. This is too much. But, something that really changed the game for me was really just like, and it's so simple, but like color coding things. I'm like, oh, okay. I would put my workouts or whatever this, because once I have worked out, I'm like, wow, I feel amazing. This is so great. And every time I schedule in like a workout or just any kind of movement session, it's yellow. It's like the color that speaks out to me is just like, oh, I feel happy after this, da, da, da. So when I look at my calendar and I will visually see like, okay, is there enough yellow on this calendar? And if not, like we need more yellow in the calendar. So yeah, it's like something that kind of changed the game for me was something I was learning how to just, take time management and time blocking and applying that to my life in real time. And I didn't realize how much a color could actually affect the way that I looked at my calendar. And I was like, okay, cool. There's not enough yellow. We need more yellow in here, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm glad that you feel the same way. We have that in common towards the calendar. So how do you, like when you're scheduling things and managing your day to day, like, is there space in your calendar or is there sometimes places where you're just like, wow, this is too much? Or how do you carve out the time when it feels to be like a little bit overwhelming?
I mean, sometimes you just got to take a couple days off. If your body is telling you, hey, I'm not feeling too great, then your mind is going to be doing the same thing. Like you're just going to feel it all over. And so that's your little, hey, red flag. Let's take some space. Let's take some time. Like just chill for a couple days.
Right. Yeah.
Anything at all. Just chill and come back to what we're doing this for, who you are, why it's important to rest, like all of those things, because it is so easy to get caught up in just like go, go, go and check it out and that kind of thing. So sometimes you just got to take a couple days off.
Yeah, for sure. And like, even like literally yesterday was Mother's Day and it's my first Mother's Day. I have a 4-month-old and thank you so much. And he, the massive life change, massive life transition, all of the things. And yesterday for Mother's Day, I went to like, my husband was so sweet. He got me a massage. I went to this, hotel pool and just like hung out by myself with like a cocktail by a pool or whatever. And, within 3 hours, it wasn't even long, like within 3 hours, I was like, I'm a brand new person. Yeah. I was so surprised at how actually little time you can really make a big shift in your mental state, emotional state, energy state, like, and right prior to that, I was at a frequency of like, oh my God, my life is crazy, da, da, da. So it's wild how actually little time can be beneficial if you can't take 2 days off, 3 hours or 2 hours or an hour can make a big difference. Yeah. So I wanted to just circle back to the overwhelm, and, something that clients always talk about is like social media and how overwhelming it is, and how it's a job and it's part of, being a songwriter and being an artist and putting yourself out there and putting the music together. So how do you cope with your schedule in terms of content creating? And like, do you have any sort of rules around it where you're like, you know what, I create stuff on this day and I only edit on this day? Or, maybe you could share on like how you stick to a content creation schedule.
Whenever I first started out, I was just like, I'm going to create every single day for 30 days. And that was like kind of how it started. And 30 days passed by. I was like, well, I've just been doing it every day, so let me just keep doing it. And that is kind of just what I did. I would just film something, edit it, and then schedule it for that day and just let it fly. And that's just kind of how I started out. And I think it was, I don't know, I've gone through both different ways of posting and creating content, of like doing it just whatever I make today is whatever I make. And the other way of like batching content, and then like having one day where you film everything, another day where you caption, edit, schedule, and then have it all ready to go for the next week. So I've done a little bit of both. And once again, I think that both of those things fluctuate depending on what season of life you're in. And so that is what I would recommend to anybody else who is dealing with, trying to find that balance of your life being crazy and needing to create content, or maybe your life is not so crazy, and whatever the case is, it's okay to have a little bit of both, and it can change whenever it needs to change.
Totally. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I schedule content as well. And I also do stuff on the fly. And I find it's definitely a different energy when something has been pre-made and then scheduled out, and you're like, oh, that went up. And you're like, I'm doing something else with my life right now. And and versus like doing something when you're inspired to create it and then to throw it up there in the moment, like it lands differently. But then again, like depending on who's watching, it doesn't really matter. We're all kind of in our own heads about our own social media campaigns or whatever it is. And so what would you say to somebody who's a little bit afraid to like put themselves out there or be visible, or, because I mean, sometimes it's the overwhelm of doing the work behind the social media. But the other objection is people are afraid to put their faces on camera and be themselves and all of those things. So what would you say to someone who is like afraid of the visibility?
I would say, remember that you're going to die. Remember, we're all going to be in the ground, man. It's going to come sooner than we think. So I would say just try and not let the little things get in the way of you doing the thing that you want to do. I know it's easier said than done, but like, I think thinking like, if I just stop thinking about what everyone else is thinking and I just start listening to what I want to do and what I want to create, that's when the people who you want to see your stuff are going to show up. That's going to be your community. That's going to be like, I don't know, I'd say just trust the process and just go for it. Like, we think about things too much in general. So that'd be my advice. Just remember.
Totally. Yeah, no, it's remember we're all gonna die, so we might as well just jump off the cliff and start learning how to swim. No, I love that advice. It's so good. And I love that, it kind of started with a challenge for you, that you were like, you know what, for the next 30 days, I am showing up every day. And then it became a habit, right? Because it's like 21 days or something like that for a new habit to take form. So wow, it was like such a nice commitment to yourself. And I'm sure like you're so glad that, because you've been able to find your community and the people that resonate with your stuff. And it's a really good point what you brought up of just like almost like putting on these blinders of like, don't even pay attention to what everyone else is doing. Like, just connect with your authentic self and create the content that you're excited about creating, and then your people will show up. So yeah, awesome. Okay, so since we are a self-care podcast, I know we spoke about this a little bit earlier about like your self-care looks like movement and yoga and going to the gym and stuff like that. What about like other areas of your life? Like, if there's some other self-care tips or tools or strategies that you really love or want to share with this community, what are some of your favorite go-tos in addition to yoga and movement? We would love to know more of your self-care practices.
Affirmations have been huge for me, like reminding myself that I am worthy of all the things that I want in this life. I am a great songwriter. I am able to do hard things, that I am beautifully and wonderfully made. All of those things, speaking speaking kindly to myself. Like every morning I used to, which I'm trying to get back into now, and I still do affirmations now, but as soon as my feet hit the floor, I would say, thank you, God. I can breathe. I woke up again today. Just having a practice of gratitude first thing in the morning when you wake up has changed the game for me. So definitely that. Right now I'm doing a 5 minutes of prayer, 5 minutes of praise, 5 minutes of in the word habit that I'm creating right now in the mornings, my feet hitting the floor and just saying thank you. That is something I'm getting back into again. But that's another one that I have right now. But yeah, but just practicing gratitude, I'd say in general, is just a huge, it changes the way you see the world, and it changes you, gives you more energy, gives you hope and faith in yourself, and other people can feel that as well. I'd say that's another one for sure, for spiritual and mental, that I have, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. So
amazing. I'm so glad you shared that, because I've been reading this book called The Gap and the Gain, and the whole point of the book is like you're either in the gap or you're in the gain. And so what that means is you're either thinking about what's missing in your life, the lack, the you don't have this, you don't have that, or you're thinking about the gain, like all of the amazing things you already have, the progress that you've made, the fact that you're living and you're breathing and you have health and all of those things, and how you can either live from the gap or you can live from the gain. And when people who live from the gain are not only healthier, but happier and things are going a lot better for them because their mindset shift, right? It's a huge mindset shift. So thank you for presencing that for sure. To close this out, is there one piece of advice you give yourself at the beginning of your career? If you could go back in time and say, hey, baby Christina, here's one little piece of self-care advice, or advice in general.
Baby Christina, I like that. I would say block out the noise. Just do you, boo. Just don't listen to so many people telling you what you should do or who you should be or how you should, none of that. You can do everything on your own. You just have to believe in yourself, make sure you're on the right team with the right players. Who you surround yourself with matters. But I guess, like all those things I was saying earlier, but for sure, definitely just like, do you, boo. Do you, and be loud and be proud about it.
I love it. Block out the noise, you guys. Just do your thing. I love it. Christina, this was so lovely. Thank you for jumping on the podcast. I appreciate your time and expertise.
Same. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you're an artist, songwriter, or producer looking to rise to your next level, come join us at the Songwriter Series for music mentorship from hit songwriters. Or join us at our annual Hitmakers Songwriting Retreat this October in Los Angeles. For more info on all our events, visit StefaniFryzel.com or just email us at info@StefaniFryzel.com. For more self-care gems, check out my book, Self-Care for the Creative. And don't forget, self-care is always within reach, and your greatest masterpiece will always be you.